Hey, Walter Sorrells back with more tips for the knife maker. Today, dies for your forge press for ladder pattern Damascus. So the forge press is a really important tool for many knife makers who make Damascus. So what are dies? Dies are basically kind of the hammer shapes that press the steel while you're using the forge press. You can have them flat, you can have them curved so that they draw out the steel, and you can have more specialized types like we're going to talk about today. Okay, this is just a quick video to show a set of dies I made for producing ladder pattern Damascus. I did the first part of a series about making Damascus about a year ago, and I'm finally getting around to doing the second part. This is not it, by the way, but this is part of a sort of constellation of videos related to Damascus making that I'll be doing over the course of this next year. Okay, but to get around to the point of the video, ladder pattern Damascus is made by either cutting or smashing a striated pattern into a billet of layered forge welded steel. This yields a pattern in the steel that vaguely resembles a ladder. Now, I've already showed the carving method in my chef's knife video, but now I'll show the way that uses dies which are employed in a forge press to do the smashing method. A method, by the way, which is very much preferable if you plan to make much of this stuff, because milling every single billet you produce is ridiculously time consuming. Now, every press is a little different, but my particular press uses dies which fit onto an 8" by 4" by 3/8 inch plate, and those plates slide onto die seats in the press. So what I'm going to do is fabricate the dies themselves using pieces of 2" by 3" by 1" mild steel, then weld those onto the base plates. Now, if I did tons and tons of this, I'd use a high temperature die steel like M2, but since I don't, mild steel will suffice just fine. Alright, so let's get started on the die. First, I'll set the dies in the vise on my milling machine, then I'll mill 1/4 inch slots in the face of the die with the slots cut every 1/2 inch. I'm milling them about the same depth as width. We'll never smash the steel all the way to full depth, but this leaves us room to grind off the surface and retune them as they wear over time. Next, I'll mill the second die in exactly the same way. Now, the key thing is that the dies have to be offset because you want the lands of each die pushing into the grooves on the other die. So I'm milling them with that in mind. Okay, once I've got both of them milled, I'm going to relieve the corners of the lands. I'm just breaking the corners on my belt grinder and kind of making a little soft curve on the top of the lands. This will make them squeeze more efficiently so that they can drive up into the steel a little more easily, and it'll make it less likely that you'll ever shear your billet. So once that's complete, I'll go ahead and tack weld the first die onto the plate, then complete the welds. The particular design of the dies on my press also includes a retention flange along the front that allows you to seat the die in exactly the right place. So I'll weld that on too. Once I've got the first die done, I'll put that in the top of my press, and then I'll set up the unfinished lower die on the bottom, adjusting it so that it meshes correctly with the upper die. This matching up process needs to be very precisely done, or the dies won't mesh right when they're used, and it'll screw up your pattern and create shearing forces, and just it'll do a lot of stuff that you don't want it to do. So I want them exactly right. Once I've made sure that the die plates are seated correctly and that I've got the second die perfectly aligned, I'll throw on a couple of quick tack welds. Then I'll remove the second die and complete the welds elsewhere in my shop. For obvious reasons, I don't want to be welding over multiple gallons of flammable hydraulic fluid. Incidentally, the heat from the welds caused a tiny bit of warpage, which I was able to fix by rebending those plates just a hair with the press. And voila, perfect fit. That's about all there is to it. So here's a little footage of me putting them to use. They work just perfectly. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the much anticipated part 2 of my Damascus making video series is currently in the works. It'll cover twist pattern and ladder pattern Damascus. Part 3, which is still a ways off, will cover W's, jelly rolls, and things of that nature. Maybe even some canned steel if I'm feeling frisky, or maybe I'll just do a whole separate video for that. Not sure at this point. I'm also going to do a short sort of theory of pattern development video, and maybe a couple more videos showing some alternative ways of making various other dies for the press. Here are links for some of the videos in the series. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel and check out my website, waltersorrellsblades.com, where you can find more of my work. You'll also find plenty more videos there that you can't find on YouTube with very, very detailed information about all aspects of Japanese blade making. Also, like me on Facebook at Walter Sorrells Blades.